I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. And you know what? We do the same over on our newsletter, over at ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter. It's free. In fact, this episode today is a bit of a recap, some of the highlights from the newsletter over the past month. And these are some things I picked out that I thought you might find helpful. So that's why I'm putting them into this podcast episode. You're going to hear the antidote for travel FOMO today. Some new opportunities for digital nomads as New Zealand opens its doors with an exciting new visa. The rise of tourist taxes across Europe, something to be aware of, something that got on my radar locally here. I'll tell you that story. You're going to hear about perhaps the best way to determine where to go next. You could do this. This could be. This could change your entire travel schedule this year. Who knows? And a segment I'm calling "In Case You Missed It," sharing some things that you might enjoy that you may have, missed in case you missed them. I think you get it. Also, share a joke, which is there's a story behind this joke, so you're going to hear that. And my theme for this year, and a little call to action at the end. So a lot going on in this little solo episode. I thought this would be fun because if you haven't been on the newsletter list, then I thought I could just sort of curate some of the things that stuck out to me and that I think are worth revisiting and maybe perhaps expanding upon here. And also, if you're not on the list yet, which is free, by the way, as I mentioned, it gives you a little taste of what you may be missing out on and what you might want to sign up for because, again, you can't beat the cost. It's free. Now, speaking of what you missed out on, FOMO, the fear of missing out, that's a thing that can psychologically impact us, right? And I came across something called JOMO. I haven't heard about this. I call this the JOMO revolution. JOMO, one of my nicknames in college, by the way, Jason Moore, JOMO. But I'm spelling JOMO, J-O-M-O here. The concept of JOMO, the joy of missing out. It's an antidote to FOMO, travel FOMO or otherwise. The joy of missing out is a, quote, emotionally intelligent antidote to FOMO, according to an article I linked up to in Psychology Today, which we can link up to here in the show notes. As the article stated, JOMO is, quote, essentially about being present and being content with where you are at in life. You do not need to compare your life to others, but instead practice tuning out the background noise of the shoulds and wants and learn to let go of worrying whether you are doing something wrong. JOMO allows us to live life in the slow lane, to appreciate human connections, to be intentional with our time, to practice saying no, to give ourselves tech-free breaks, and to give us permission to acknowledge where we are and to feel emotions, whether they are positive or negative. Instead of constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, JOMO allows us to be who we are in the present moment, which is the secret to finding happiness. When you free up that competitive and anxious space in your brain, you have so much more time, energy, and emotion to conquer your true priorities. End quote. And again, we'll link up to that article. I thought that was really well said, especially, right at the end there. This idea of freeing up that space to conquer your true priorities. Why are our truest priorities sometimes pushed to the back burner and filled with, 30-second garbage clips on social media or whatever, I mean, maybe those have their time and place, but man, it's so easy to just kind of let our true priorities kind of slip, and then the days go by and the weeks go by and the months go by, and then sometimes the years go by. We have to be careful. We have to be vigilant with our true priorities. So I just wanted to share that. Maybe JOMO can help you out the next time you peep somebody's travel adventures on social media or whatever, you feel a twinge of FOMO. It's time to bust out the JOMO, the joy of missing out. Appreciate the joy of missing out. I thought that was helpful. Okay, here is an exciting update for you remote workers out there, you digital nomads, you location-independent entrepreneurs, budding or current. And perhaps some of you that are kicking around some ideas might find motivation in the fact that New Zealand has a new remote work and digital nomad visa as of the end of January. New Zealand has added permissions to their visitor visa to include digital nomads and remote workers. So here's what it says in their official website, which clarifies who qualifies. It says, quote, remote work is an activity you do for gain or reward for a company, employer, or client that is not in New Zealand. Gain or reward includes work done for payment or for the benefit that can be valued in terms of money, for example, accommodation, food, or services. If you are self-employed or a digital nomad, you can work remotely for clients outside New Zealand. All visitor visas applied for on or after January 27th, 2025 allow you to work remotely in New Zealand. There's no limit to the amount of remote work you can do while you have your visitor visa, end quote. So if you want to learn more or apply to that visa, we'll link up to it in the show notes. And I did, in fact, record a popular episode about New Zealand's best hidden gems from somebody that has been living there for quite a while and has explored a lot of the nooks and crannies. And I can link up to that podcast as well if you're just like needing some motivation to go and apply for this remote work visa. This is really cool. Traditionally, at least for many years coming up and doing this podcast for so long, I was well aware of some of the options for younger folks that were wanting to work in Australia and New Zealand, for example. They have these very popular 2-year stay visas where you can work on farms and things like that. And it was a popular thing for some budget travelers to do, or some people that just wanted to, not necessarily budget travel, but just, go somewhere and have an experience. In fact, a buddy of mine who was a guest on this show, you've probably heard him, Kenny. He did some of the Europe food hack episodes. He runs a big food tour company. This is how he started off. If you hear his story, he went to New Zealand to do some work on farms, and there was some woofing in there as well, working on organic farms, doing some work exchange stuff where you perhaps work in the fields, you got a place to stay. It can be very community driven also with travelers. I haven't done it, but I've talked to many people who have. And that was always a way in. And, of course, there are traditional work visas for people who are employed by a company that is willing to bring them there or quote unquote sponsor them in some way and bring them, which can be very difficult to get those gigs because countries want their companies to hire people that live there and so on. And, this is a great example of this trend. I mean, the digital nomad visa trend. Even if you aren't somebody who's entrepreneurial per se, I mean, there are ways to, do consulting and sort of have almost a full-time job and still be just a remote worker for perhaps a company you work for. It might not seem entrepreneurial on the surface, but a consulting gig where you're billing people per month, even if it's a full-time thing, is still self-employment in many ways. And if you are able to work remotely for a company or set up your own remote work situation, you have so many options now to get some of these visas, and they all have different requirements in terms of the income you need to earn or prove that you earn, how established you need to be. But you can really reverse engineer this if you're able to generate income remotely. This is indicative of some of these programs, right? Like you can hear in this New Zealand program, they do not want people that are earning money from clients in New Zealand. I'm trying to find where it says, you can work remotely for clients outside of New Zealand. So they're really targeting those people that are outside of that country, but they're saying, hey, come in, enjoy what we have to offer. This kind of begs the question, what makes a destination, quote unquote, digital nomad friendly beyond just offering a visa? I mean, yes, the visa is part one because you need permission to stay. But to me, it comes down to, the lifestyle you want to have, the experience you want to have. If you're looking at this from the visa standpoint, you say, okay, I have 6 months in this place, or 12 months in this place, or 8 months in this place based on the visa. What does that look like? What does my lifestyle look like? What kind of lifestyle do I want to live for the next 12 months or 6 months? I mean, look at New Zealand. You want to live an outdoor fueled lifestyle and explore nature and surf and camp and trek and, who knows what else. I mean, maybe New Zealand's your spot. But if you think about the experiences you want to have, you're more an urban person. Do you want to be based in a city? Do you want to be around a lot of other digital nomads? What experience do you want to have? Is it more business oriented? Do you want to just get plugged into a network of entrepreneurs, perhaps be in a place where you can find a co-working community that suits your needs and that is aligned with what you're trying to do? Some things to think about, but on the tail end of that, before we move on to these tourist tax trends, also don't overthink it, right? It's kind of like if you're game for one of these visas, just be game for it and just kind of pick something, apply, and roll with it and go see what happens. That's kind of my thought, because at some point you just make a decision and you roll with it. That's what you got to do. And I think with travel, when you're a traveler, you're open-minded, you're kind of up for different things. Can you really go wrong? I mean, just to go and have an experience in a place, I feel like it's going to work out no matter what you choose. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop. Now, back to the show. Number 3, tourist tax trends. This is something that kind of got on my radar here locally. I was reading the local paper, which we get, and there was an article about charging a tourist tax here in Oslo, something they're doing up in the north, I believe now, experimenting with. I've seen various articles coming out about this. So I got online and did a little research and, can see this is definitely a growing trend of tourist taxes globally, taxes on tourism, on tourists specifically, how they can implement those. It's a variety of ways, but you can think about, places that you stay, a hotel, perhaps adding a tourist tax onto your bill that the city charges. I mean, from the governmental perspective, this is kind of a no-brainer if you think about it, right? These governments want to generate more revenue in general for the government. And I mean, this is a great way to do it from their perspective, right? It's like, hey, we can tax all these people coming in, charge them like a small tax. We can generate all this revenue because our place, like Norway, is becoming hugely popular for tourism, more and more popular every year. The locals aren't paying any additional taxes. So there's no argument there locally. They're not asking the people that live here to pay anymore. They're just asking the people that come in and out to pay. And there are many debates about this. The one is what to do with the money that comes in, that the revenue that's generated. In the article, they were talking about how some people in the political parties want to take the revenue from the tourist taxes and apply it to infrastructure for tourism. So you could think, for example, building more public restrooms that people can use, things that would directly impact in a positive way the visitors. Others want to take that money and use it for local schools and use it in the local community. I can see both sides of these arguments, or all sides of these arguments. And then there was another sort of debate within the overall debate about who should be taxed, because they were talking about taxing different types of travelers. And the argument was that the people that come in and, think about the traditional traveler that comes in and stays in a hotel and explores for some days. Maybe they get a rental car, go around, thinking about that type of traveler. They said, well, that person spends more money. They're already spending and doing good by us, so we shouldn't tax them. But we should tax the cruise ship tourists, the people that come in and they're just like here for a day and they leave. And they also added to this argument the people that drive RVs, that are RVing around, because their argument was that they don't spend as much money. They're just, the wild camping's allowed here in Norway. So if you're in an RV, you can just pull off at a lake and sleep. You don't have to get a hotel or anything like that. And their argument is that they don't pay as much in, and they're just taking advantage. I'm using air quotes there. They're sort of utilizing the resources that Norway has to offer, but they're not giving back enough, in their opinion. Now, where do I fall on this? I mean, I could look at, I've interviewed so many people on this podcast. I mean, I think people that stay in a country for a long period of time, I don't necessarily think they should be penalized. I think they're actually contributing very uniquely to the local economy in some ways. I think that's why, going back to the point I just made, you see the rise in digital nomad visas, because these countries are realizing, hey, we get people that want to come and stay and we can let them stay for longer. They're going to be contributing to the local economy as well, which is helpful. So I'm not quite too keen on splitting out groups of tourists and categorizing them based on, oh, you're in an RV, you're this way, you're that way, and then taxing them accordingly. It's so many shades of gray here. It's a difficult thing. Just bringing it up. I don't have any answer to this question here. I'm not sure that I think it's right that you should tax different types of travelers in different ways. I will perhaps make an exception to that for cruise ship travelers, because I do think it's a totally different ballgame, right? I mean, these ships are, I don't have a set of, I'm not going to go on like a long rant here because I need statistics and facts to back it up. But cruise ships are generally not the most environmentally friendly means of travel. And then people do come on and they're just here in a port for like a day. It seems, it doesn't seem like a fair exchange, let's say, in some ways. But I'm not a business owner on a port, in a port city. They would look at it completely differently. So again, a lot of complicated questions. So in general, I don't know where I fall on the debate of taxing different types of tourists, but I do want to point out that after doing some research based on the reading I did here in Norway and reading some of the debates in the paper, and I realized, wow, this is something that's happening across Europe, and you can see as over-tourism, there's problems with over-tourism as that continues. This is one way to kind of offset that from the governmental perspective. So just be on the lookout. You may be being hit with some of those in some of these places. I don't think there are any quite yet that are so extreme that you should be like, oh, I'm not going to go here because of it. But just a trend to be aware of. Okay, we're coming down. I got two more things to share with you, and then we're going to get into this discussion about a little call to action based off of my word for the year. I think this might be helpful coming out of this show, or hopefully it is. And a bad joke. There's a story behind this. But first, is this the best way to determine your next trip? I'm wondering. I was doing some research and I was looking for an article that would help me determine the best places to travel by month. Sometimes it can be tough to predict the exact days you'll get off of work to travel. And I know that. I've had traditional jobs before, and I've had contract work, mostly contract work, and you don't always know going into a year. If you have like a 3-month contract, you're not sure what your next one's going to be. It can be sort of up in the air, which can make it sometimes difficult to plan a trip. And that being said, you can often pinpoint a month, right? That's why I found there was an article our friends at Moon Guidebooks put out that featured the best places to travel in each month of the year. And I can link up to that. And this is just an example of what I think is a great way to start dreaming up your next potential trip. If you fall to that category, if you're the person that's like, I don't know when I can take an extended trip, but I can like sort of generalize the month I can take it. You can check out this article. It has a breakdown that includes sun and sand, the great outdoors, ski vacations, and so on. So you're bound to find something that gets you excited. And just that idea of reverse engineering it and just taking a look at the month you're traveling in, a lot of that's going to be weather-based and things like that based on what you want to do, which is why they broke it down to some of these categories. But I just thought it was worth pointing out that, hey, don't let the sort of unknown deter you from planning. Sometimes it's easy to, when our plans are up in the air, our work plans, mostly, to kind of put off the trip. You're like, I don't really know. And then like it sneaks up on you and then it's too late to plan something. If you kind of just pinpoint the month that you're going to travel, you can find something. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Now, back to the show. Okay, a quick recap. I want to do this in case you missed it. We've had some killer episodes on the podcast. I wanted to highlight a few. Ben Buckland's trek through the Alps using only hand-drawn maps from locals. I don't know if you listened to that episode, but man, that was such a cool idea. He went out with a good pen and paper and he depended on local people in these villages to hand draw him a map to the next destination. That's how he got around rather than using a phone and a GPS and things like that. And he put together this really amazing article that was published in the New York Times. And it was like an art piece because he had not only the adventure, the travel adventure side of it, talking to the locals, trying to figure out where to go, walking through the mountains and all of that, but the artistic side of seeing the hand-drawn maps and how each local interpreted their terrain, their village, or how you would get from one place to the other. The things that they used as landmarks were, in some way, telling you a part of their personality, right? If they say, oh, turn right at the cows on the right, that might be a good neighbor friend, or maybe they're a farmer. It was just some interesting dynamics psychologically to that whole thing, which I hadn't really thought about before. So that was really fascinating to me. The idea of getting around using only hand-drawn maps from locals. We did a whole episode on that. Of course, the Rick Steves episode that just dropped pretty recently. Eric Weiner, best-selling New York Times author, interviewing travel legend, best-selling author Rick Steves, is a conversation not to be missed. And I had a really fun time putting together another solo show. If you like the solo shows, which is just me, on the microphone with you, the best of the best list that I put out. I had fun. I went through a lot of the popular best places to travel in 2025 lists, and I just pulled out some of the ones that I thought were great, shared some personal stories, and a mix of other things. And that was a fun episode to put together. And we have some other great episodes out there as well. In case you missed them, be sure to check them out if you need something to listen to. And I want to thank you for being a listener before we close this out. You can always get in touch. Jason@zerototravel.com is my email. Of course, the newsletter, as I mentioned, zerototravel.com/newsletter, which is what we're pulling some content from today and expanding on a bit. If you like this, you should just sign up over there to keep in touch, and you'll get this once a week for free. Okay. The word of the year I shared in an earlier newsletter this year. And I always like to do this. You pick a word or a theme for the year. We're settled into the year now for sure. But, I bring this up because you can always change it, right? So for mine, my phrase so far this year is choose kindness. And sometimes, although I consider myself to be a kind person, I hope others see me that way. That doesn't mean I'm always kind in the moment. I can lose my patience, like everybody. We're just human, right? So I'm trying to use that as my call to action when I get frustrated or, angry or, stressed or whatever. I mean, winter here can be pretty long. Just try to choose kindness, doing that the best I can, and just having that as my phrase so far for this year, top of mind, is helpful. And again, I'll probably change that going through the year. I'm launching a new project, and even work-related, I feel like, if I, thinking about choosing kindness, we often think about that as it pertains to our daily life, perhaps our daily interactions. But what if I'm thinking about that through the lens of serving customers and clients and, a community? That's a game changer. It changes the way I think about things. So Anyway, your word for the year, your phrase for the year, if you haven't picked one, that's my call to action for you today, to just grab something, first thing that comes to mind, jot it on a sticky note, and roll with it. You can always change it. If you have one already, I'd love to hear yours, because I can share it via the newsletter, and we can maybe perhaps inspire some other people in the community to do this. And so it goes around. Okay. Now, I'm going to close this out with a quote in a minute. First, I got like a crazy story. I mean, it's not crazy, but it was kind of surprising to me. I've been playing with AI a little bit just to kind of see the capabilities, understand it a bit more. I mean, it's certainly not going anywhere. I don't want to be one of those, dinosaurs stuck in the mud, refusing to adapt to the newest technology. I'm not using it to create original content. But I'm using it to research, to experiment, to organize, and just kind of playing around with it and seeing what it's capable of. And so I took my newsletters and some of this content that I wanted to share with you today and put it in here and asked it to write me a dad joke related to the content. And it came back with a pretty funny one, which is kind of crazy. It said, and here's the joke: why did the digital nomad fail their New Zealand visa application? Because they couldn't prove they were remotely qualified. I was like actually laughing out loud at this freaking AI joke. What's wrong with me? And then the AI wrote a couple other jokes, and then it finished with, would you like me to come up with any others? I can keep going, though your listeners might appreciate it if I don't. Smiley emoji. What? I'm not sure if I love that or if it's just creepy. I don't really even know. But anyway, that was pretty shocking. So there you go. A nice digital nomad visa joke. Is that the first digital nomad visa joke ever written? Probably not. And I didn't even write it. It wasn't even a Jason Moore original. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to leave you with this quote from Robert H. Schuller. Just one last reminder before you go. Don't forget to embrace that joy of missing out if you need it. All right, this one from Robert H. Schuller, who said, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? Thanks for listening. I'll see you next month. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.